You can't see it dripping out?
No.
No? So this morning, well, it's morning at the moment, but it'll be afternoon soon. We're gonna be replacing the fuel lines on the Fiat. There's a tap. There's a tap just up there, in my finger. It's leaking. It's constantly got diesel dripping off the end of it. So we're going to bypass that. We don't need to have a tap. We're going to put the new. I've got new fuel line to go on. It's just it's a clear line. This one I don't know. I'd say it's factory. There's a filter on the top of here. I'm going to clean that out. There's always a bit of oil, diesel sitting on top of that, so it wouldn't surprise me if that's leaking too. And we're going to take the. It's also got a third filter there, so that is. Not 100% sure, but I think it's before those two filters there. No, it's after. I think the fuel goes through these into the injector pump and then back through that other filter. I'm not sure, I'll work it out as I go, but we're going to remove the diesel tank. Remove this diesel tank, and because on the other Fiat, and we've had it once with this one, the banjo bolt under here gets rust in it and blocks up and slows the fuel. So we had a fuel blockage in the older Fiat, and I've had it once with this tractor, where it's blocked up. So what I'm going to do is pull the tank out, and then where the banjo bolt threads in, you can undo that and then put a spout on top of each of them, so that you're so it's sucking diesel from like 40 mil up off the bottom, so it leaves a bit of room for rubbish to go in there. But we'll clean the tank out at the same time, so there shouldn't be any rubbish that's in there at the moment. So yeah, you can see a lot of diesel's been leaking. You can see these air conditioning lines are all soaked with diesel. The side of the tractor is quite dusty because the diesel's making dust stick to it. So it will clean it up. Got tools for me? Tools and bolts?
Yeah. Bolts.
We do need spanners.
Spanner.
Everything's so tight in there. But let's get to it. So this is the sort of stuff that's in the fuel tank. That. So that there is rust flakes. So that's what was in the fuel tank. It was in, that's the cap, the drain in the bottom. Drain at the bottom of the tank, full with rust.
Full with the rust.
So this here is one of the banjo bolts that I think, I'm still working out exactly how it works, but I'm pretty sure this one here is a return. But if it is a return, then that means this rust is getting through the filter, which it won't be. So what may be happening is the rust is moving around in the bottom of the tank and going down inside the banjo bolt on the return. The other one was clear, it was unblocked, but that's the one we unblocked last time when we had the fuel blockage. So this banjo bolt is completely full of rust. It's not going to be easy to tell. So you can't see light through it. Should be able to see through that hole on the side, but you can't. So yeah, you can ride your bikes. That's the other banjo bolt there, which is all clean. That's the one we removed last time, which I thought was the feed to the diesel pump. If it was blocked like that, it probably wouldn't be running. So this probably is the feed and that's return. But anyways, we're going to clean it all out. Right, so this is what I've discovered. These two lines here are return lines, I think. That's the fuel gauge power or feed, whatever you want to call it. And I'll show you down the bottom one banjo bolt just, can you see that in the lot torch there? and then you got the other one over here. So it's got a T just under there, and it's all running into one. And then these two here that are on top are the return lines, so they go up to on top of the tank. Right. Make sure this new pipe fits on. Perfect. Proving to be a bit of a, it's just tight. It's not much of a mission, but I've undone one and put a new hose on, and that's this hose here. So this one here is going to be going to the primer pump, which is right there. And then I've just undone the feed from the back, which has got the tap on it. So what I'm going to do is at the back where there's the T, which goes the two inlets from the tank, I'm going to put a new pipe to the T, because I don't have enough hose clamps to do the rest, but it should be alright. The main job for today was just to get rid of the tap, but I also wanted to replace these other bits of fuel line while I was here. So only got limited supplies with Covert 19 around. Can't get supplies from town. I purposely got this bit of fuel line and hose clamps to do this job while we got nothing to do. So yeah, you can see I unbolted it. It does bolt up just there. I'm going to bolt it back up now because I've got that line on, and I can push that line on and put the hose clamp on that one after. So it's pretty tight. I think that there's actually an aftermarket thing. I don't think it's factory. So this line here is coming from that filter, and it's going into the primer pump there. So I've replaced that, cable tied it up so it's out of the way, so it's not rubbing on anything. It should be alright now. Probably cable tie that out of the way. I haven't been filming much because it's hard to film in this when I'm working this close to the tractor in such a tight spot. So now I've got to do this hose. So this one here goes to that filter, which is the cartridge filter just there, and goes back to the tank. So I'm going to replace that now. You having fun, are you? You got some petrol? Yeah. Okay, you got your tools too to fix it? Yeah. Okay. So this is the tap that was leaking. It just goes up in there. Gonna see if I can draw the new fuel line through, because if it can go where the fuel line goes, it'll be better. Otherwise I'll just run it along the side of the gearbox and up to the back. Right, so I've just had some lunch at the Fiat, and I wasn't going to replace these fuel lines, but if you can see there's something inside the fuel line sitting on the bottom. So if I can find enough hose clamps, or if I can get these hose clamps to fit on the new pipe, then I'm going to replace them now so they're done, so I don't have to pull that fuel tank back out. I really don't want to do that twice. So I'm going to get in there and clean that out soon. And there's the new pipe just there. Goes onto that. Right, so I managed to reuse the older clamps. They're a bit tight getting on there, but I've managed to do it. So here's the feed. That's the feed line to the pump. And there's a T here which branches off to that. And there. So I've just removed this one. So this is the one that had the blocked banjo bolt. Well, there should be light coming through that. There's not. So I've got to unblock that. And what I'm going to do, and what we did to the other Fiat, is we put an extension on this here. We just pushed it on. So I'm going to find a bit of pipe that fits on there snugly, and we're going to do that on both sides, just to extend it up 40mm maybe, and go from there. Alright, so you see what I've come up with? It's just a piece of, I think it's actually a power steering pipe, which I've just pressed onto the end of the two These are actually the two feed lines from the tank where the banjo bolt goes in there. So yeah, so I'm about to put those back in with their copper washers, put the bung back in, and then reinstall the tank back into the back of the tractor. So we'll get on with that. Well, got the fuel tank back in, got all the fuel lines hooked up. It's quite a messy job. Mind you, I'm working on a gravel / dirt floor just there where the tractors normally park, so it doesn't make it very clean. But you can see the new line there, just there, and that comes up to the primer pump, and then down in here, this line here goes to the back, and that's the one to the primer pump. So yeah, I managed to get that one through some of the original clips. I used a wire and pulled it through, and replaced the T, or not replaced the T, but replaced the bits of pipe on the T. There's not many videos on YouTube about how to turn up this particular tractor. So if someone does have one of these tractors, it's that screw there, you wind it in. I've wound that one in 2 full turns. I possibly could go in a bit more, but we'll just leave it as it is for now. Yeah, so I'm gonna prime it up, and then I'm gonna actually go over and give this side a wash, because get rid of all the dust that's stuck to the diesel that's been leaking out of here. Get it cleaned up a bit. So it should be a lot cleaner now, with not having diesel leaking. So time to put some diesel on the tank and prime it up. Right, got the tractor all done. Doesn't appear to be leaking any diesel, which is good. A good result. Took it for a drive up the hill. Got the hill just past the farm there. It's a good test to see how the tractor's running, and it went up there pretty easily compared to other times. It was getting a bit sluggish, so we're obviously getting a bit more fuel through the system now. Got a few other bits and pieces I want to do to it. The radio goes on and off in the cab there. Must be some loose wires that just need tidying up. I've actually sold this Fiat. The guy that's coming on here is buying it off us. Got pretty good money for it. When we get further down the track, I'll go a bit more in depth into it. But yeah, this old girl, one of my favourite tractors. We've sold her, so we actually brought one of my parents' tractors. So yeah, we'll get into that further down the track. That's probably it for this video. I'm gonna do a few other jobs, tidy up, and we'll catch you somewhere else on the farm. See ya.